Is that Stanley College?
No, it's actually Thai, so
Oh.
it's like a knockoff of Stanley. When did you start teaching?
Teaching after finishing my CELTA.
Ah,
Before
okay.
CELTA, I do teach like IELTS class,
Mm.
but it's not like I didn't know the frameworks or the way to teach like IELTS or GED.
Yeah.
I did tutor like GED classes, but I just did it my own way, like the way I think would be great for my students.
Yeah.
So only after CELTA, I learned how to systematically and how to like develop a lesson, and like using frameworks and using methods. Only after CELTA. So it has been only like 7 months.
Oh, 7 months.
Yes, Jim.
Very freshly out of CELTA. I see. So, can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
CELTA. Why did you decided to like take that
the
course? Yeah. How did that process go about?
I never thought that I would become like a language teacher.
No.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, not once. I mean, I used to be like a studious student too. Like I would always like run fast. Number one in my classes, back in my middle school. But I never imagined myself becoming a teacher.
Oh.
I had a different pathway for myself, but that didn't work out because of like several reasons. Somehow, like I got the job at the British Council where I met people from the ELT field.
Yeah.
Because most of my colleagues, they are also from ELT field. So I learned like that career pathway that I could pursue. Like if that I could, you could say that this is my second option, like plan B. But plan A wasn't like realistic. To be honest, like being honest with myself, plan A wasn't realistic. Plan A was like almost impossible. So like, oh yeah, this is like a safe choice for me. So I just, after meeting colleagues who were in that ELT field, after meeting a few people who are being successful, who are successful in this field, I thought to myself like, why not? Because at the time before I decided to do CELTA, I've been a young learner support assistant at British Council like for a year now. It was a year. It has been a year. It had been a year, so I felt like I was stuck in that position, and I wanted to like, level up. So I said, why not? Why not? So I talked to my father like, oh, I would like to take this course, even though they didn't actually know what the course is for or how it could help with the career. They didn't really know about it, but I just talked to them. Then with that certificate, I think I can expand. I can, how do I say, level up my current like position. So I talked to my father and I got the phone. And then I just decided to, now or never. Now or never, I just decided to do it. And another thing about me is that I always set like a milestone for myself, like, oh, I was 19 at the time. So by 19 years old, before I turned 20, I would like to earn my CELTA. So, that would be a big accomplishment for myself. So, oh yeah, before 20, I would like to do that. So I just took the CELTA before like 2 months before I turned 20, and I did the intensive course in Bangkok. So yes, after CELTA, even though I never imagined myself being a language teacher, after doing CELTA, it did like, how would you say, give me like, I didn't knew that you have to learn that much like methods like in depth to teach a language, to teach something. So I was like, oh, I didn't realize about it. I didn't know it required that much systematic like approach to teaching a language. So I was like, oh, this is not too bad. This is not too bad. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. So that's how I become an English language teacher. But yes, to be honest, I never imagined myself to be myself like right now, the way I'm right now. but I do am grateful, and I do am I'm proud of myself.
I am proud of myself. I am proud of you as well, because at 19, not a lot of people go in and take the course. I'm sure you know, because you've met some of your course mates, right?
Yes.
I don't think any one of them were 19.
No.
Or yeah, I think I'm pretty sure you were the youngest, probably. So yeah, so I am really proud of you. And listening to you, I have a lot of little questions that I could go into, that I want to go into. But let me gather my thoughts.
Yes.
Let me take a break, because that was a lot of information.
It's like a milestone for myself, like a goal that I set for myself. So yeah, like even before I turned 18, I had a goal, which was to have a boyfriend before I turned 18, because I wanted to experience, like, because teenage these days, like, they have their own drama, they have their own like relationship things or something that fun that they do.
Right.
For me, like, I didn't get to experience that. I didn't get to have a fun teenager life. So that was one thing that I wanted to do before I turned 18, and I did.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So before I turned 18, I did get into a relationship, and
How did that work out?
I'm still in that relationship.
Oh, okay.
It's stuck for like 3 years now.
I see. So it's going well.
Yep.
Going well socially, relationship-wise, and also career-wise. Nice. Can I talk about that? Having that atypical teenage years, because I know a lot of your generation was disrupted by COVID and the coup and everything else that is happening in the country.
Yes.
So can you talk to me about, I think you've shared a little bit with me in another conversation, but I want to know more in depth about how it affected you. And you also talked about teaching being your second option. So you did have the first option, right? Yes. So what was your first option, and why did you let go of it? Yeah.
So like, I think my formal education ended after I graduated 8th grade at the time. But I did attended like a few months, grade 9. I did attended like grade 9 for a few months, but it did shut down because of the COVID and then the coups. And after that, like, I have my own belief and I have my own stance. So like, I just at that time, like during the COVID and during the coup, I was at home. I had nothing to do. Everything felt really daunting at that time. So you could say that I was actually in depression at the time, because I didn't know what to do with my life, and I didn't know like what other pathway I could choose from. So my first option was to graduate like high school with really good distinction, with many distinctions, because that's what my family expected from me, because I have always been like the perfect daughter, like the studious, the outstanding students and daughter. So they also had high hope in me, like my family, they also had high hope in me to get like full distinction and get into a medical school. But it's not because of them, like but I also wanted to become a doctor myself. But my first goal was to become a doctor, to finish my high school like as my parents did, because they just like after graduating high school they went to university. I just wanted that normal education pathway. But that didn't happen. But I had my strong stance. I have my strong viewpoint on certain stuff. So I refused to continue it, and I just I pursued GED after that.
Right.
But even after GED, I did try to get into like foreign medical university. But the thing about medical university is they are hard to get into, and they have like some many restrictions around, especially for like foreign students.
Right.
But luckily, I applied to one of the, after GED, after finishing my IELTS, and after I prepare everything the SAT, which is required for like American university.
Right. Yeah, I remember you doing that. Yeah.
And I applied for an American university. It was a private university. And I did get into the university, like, and they offered me like 75% scholarship. But like it's a private university in America, in the USA. So like even after 75% scholarship, like it costs around like 10,000 USD or something. So it's still expensive. Yeah, per
for
year.
a year.
Yep. So I did get into that university. I did get into that medical school too.
Right.
I even took like, I even sat for a medical interview. Like I was really proud of myself at the moment. Oh, I'm one step closer to becoming a doctor. But like I said, like even after 75% scholarship, it's still a lot to cover. And even if I like really thought about going to America at that time, I feel like I would be really struggling to live by myself, or struggling to meet my what is this expression? Making ends meet.
Oh, making ends meet. Yeah.
I would be struggling to making ends meet. So yeah, I didn't choose that. Because like that would also affect all my family, because I still have 2 siblings. I still have to look after them. I still have to think for them.
Right.
So I cannot do that. I didn't choose that option. So that's how like teaching became my second option. But yeah. But now that because of the situation in America, and they have banned students to enter, because I feel like I make the right choice. I didn't regret about it, but I'm still proud of like, oh, I got accepted to it. That's the thing that I take pride in, and that's it. Like, oh, at least I try. That's it. So that's how it ended. That's how I ended
my career. Now that you mentioned it, I remember the first time that I met you. Like, I don't remember the very first time that I met you, but the first few kind of moments that I met you, and then comparing that with the current version, it's very different.
Really?
Yes. I don't know if you've noticed, but now that you've mentioned SAT, it takes me back to the moment where you talked to me about, you answered my question about, oh, what are you doing, Nancy, and these days, and you said, oh, I'm studying for SAT. That Nancy was so different. It really is different. Now that I think about it.
How did you see me at that time?
At that time?
Yeah.
At that time, I don't want to use this word because it sounds a bit cliche, but you did look like a child to me. Like, oh, she's 18, she's 17, she's basically a child. But now that I have a couple of conversations, including this one, like, and the previous conversations that we've had, you've grown up so much in like so little time, because we have met each other for not over 2 years, right? Like a little over 1 year.
A little, yeah, maybe, sure.
Maybe a little over 1 year or 2 years, maybe. But within this short amount of time, you have grown up to be like, to be more confident as well, I would have to say. Yeah. Just now you were saying like, okay, I don't regret about not going to America, even though you got accepted, because that was a realistic decision for you. That was a practical decision for you at that time. And being able to accept that kind of reality at your age without having any regrets, it's not something that a lot of young people can do. Maybe there are some young people who can do that, but not a lot. I wouldn't say. I don't know a lot of young people who can do that. Yeah. I think if I have to go into the next topic or next question, what changed you? Like, how did you grow up so fast?
yeah, I cannot even like. Oh, why am I not like a teenager? Like sometimes, even like during my teenage years, I did not like sneak out of the house to have fun at night. I didn't even like tested like alcohol like for the first time. Testing like doing all those mischievous stuff that teenagers would do.
Except the boyfriend.
Because
that's acceptable.
But like so I don't know. I think it's the experience. It depends on how you were brought up and how you grew up. Because like personally, my experience is that I didn't grow up in a very welcoming or very like heartwarming household. So it has always been like struggles after struggles. Sometimes financially, like financial struggle. Sometimes like there's some intense like between the relationship between my parents. But yeah, so that also affected me. So I think, to be honest, it's a very sensitive topic for me.
You've got that realization that, okay, my option A didn't work out because I don't have enough resources to go after that vision. So you chose the second realistic option. And now you seem a lot more sure of yourself, Talk to me about your like thought process or talk to me about your experience. How did you go from point A, wanting to become something, and then point B, accepting reality?
For the thing about like not being as lucky or as, what's the word for that? As lucky as other, as
in some aspects of life.
I used to be really I used to compare my life to their life, and I did wish of like having their life because that would be really great. I would be able to do a lot of things that I want to do without holding back myself.
Right.
So I did have that moment, like I did have that phase, and I was very negative about the life that I grew up in. Like, I wish I had this. I wish I had this. I hate the way I grew up. I hate my life. But I used to have those thoughts. But I think later, like somewhere in between, like while living alone in Yangon, like while living away from my family, and after building my own like community or building my own circle with people that I have something to learn from. Like I always learn from people from my circle, people in my circle. Somewhere in that point, I decided to become like I decided to think more positively about everything. Like, if they are successful and if they have, for example, they have lots of resources, they have lots of support from their parents, financially and emotionally or everything, like educationally. Then I would be, that's great for them. I'm happy for them. But I didn't I stopped at that moment. And I didn't let it make me feel like inferior of my own existence, my whole life experience.
Right.
Because I know that I went through these things. So these are the experience that is only unique to me. So yeah, I mean, I only compare myself to myself like, so far I'm doing really good. Like, I have been able to I have been able to like taught myself to survive or to to be independent in some ways and in some aspects. So in that case, I'm proud of myself. I don't need to have their life. I try to be very positive about myself. Even though like the past experience might still be traumatic for me, but yeah, I accept it. But of course, it needs some time to process.
Of course.
It still needs some time to process, but yeah, I try to be very positive about myself. Not comparing myself to other. I felt more confident after moving to Yangon. Yeah, and also even though I have like a strong belief in certain issue, a strong standpoint. but I do want to be like very open-minded. I do want to be someone like who's not selfish or who block away other perspective. That's why I also try to think like, even if I had for example, if I, like I said, I had an experience where I fell out with all of my friends, where I cut off all of them. So after that, I reflected myself and I thought like, okay, how about from their perspective? Like, how would I look like from their perspective? Even sometimes it's tiring. Sometimes it's tiring to do so. Like always considering, always thinking about other viewpoints.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, you are unusually self-aware for your age. Unusually self-aware. That's what I meant by noticing you grow up. Because I remember having you in that teaching center and meeting you. Just the way you walk, it's not just about what, it's just the way you walk and the way that you move. Back then and now, vastly different. But I think the first time that I noticed you is because you have that fiery energy or the spark. Like you when you stand on something, you want to stand there. Like, this is me, this is what I believe, and that's it. That's the energy that I got when I first met you and when I see you around. But when I say that you grew up, now you're like, okay, this is my stance. But you're also thinking, okay, I want to learn from their perspective. I want to be open, and I don't want to be stuck to one opinion. You're willing to let some opinion in. Whether you take it or not is up to your brain and your mind at that time. But at least you're like willing to open. And that's why I said and usually self-aware and self-reflective, which is a really, really good skill to have. Yeah. I'm really glad that I got to talk to you. I know that you have been working as a young learner assistant, right? Who do you learn from the most in terms of like young learners?
Young learners. In all the classes that I assisted in, like I can learn like a few things from each teacher.
Yeah.
And the thing about me is like I learn through like what I see, and like if I'm able to observe something, I naturally pick that up and I naturally apply that. So yes, dear, I cannot name like a specific person or a specific class. But yeah, the thing is like after being assistant at all of these classes, I've observed a lot and I've picked up a lot, and I've been able to apply in my throughout my current like teaching career too.
Right. I want to know your English learning journey as well, because you did get IELTS 8, and I don't think it is easy for some people who's already good at English. So, but with your, I don't know how you study for that.
Yes.
I'm sure that you will say that you just pick it up. But yeah, how did you study for that? And I also know that you mentioned that you were quite a studious child, and you got the first grade in every level, every class. I didn't know that, and I'm not surprised to hear that as well. But yeah, so my question is like, how did you study for IELTS with your own way, and being a natural learner?
But yeah, the thing about me is I never had notes for IELTS. Like the way I study it is, first I thought that I should be familiar with the format.
Right.
If I'm familiar with the format, because for me, I personally thought that IELTS is all about your English. Like if your English is at like B2 level, you will get a score like relevant to that level. Like it's a reflection of your own English level. So I didn't, even though I didn't realize my English level at that time, I just thought like, oh, it's just about my English. So what I can do I have to understand the format. Right. So I learned the format. Well, like how many questions, how many parts in each session, what are the question types. I learned all that. And then the first thing I did after that was I took a mock test from the like Cambridge CB.
Right.
I took a full mock test, and then I checked my score. I got around like maybe B2 or somewhere C1 or even like B1.
Right.
So now that I know my level, I thought to myself like, which band score would I like to get? So actually I was aiming for like 7.5 because I didn't really think that I would be able to get like band high. I didn't expect it. I never expected to get like band 8.
Right.
So I took the mock test, and what I did, even though you shouldn't do that, I wouldn't recommend this method because every day I would take one mock test, 2 mock tests, like just like that. I would only take mock tests because like if I'm too lazy to study, then I would only do listening because listening is easy and it's also like it's only take a few minutes. So I would do listening. If I'm very motivated to study, then I would do writing, reading, or listening, or the whole mock test. So I just keep on doing that, and I just keep on checking my score, like how much have I improved, how much have I not. But I knew that it wouldn't work. Like this method is not working because each time I take, I would make a few mistakes. Sometimes I would get full marks. Sometimes I would get I would have a lot of mistakes.
Right.
So what I did was I went on to YouTube because I refused to take classes. I refused to take classes because I don't know why. Maybe because of the cost of the session, like the cost of IELTS training session. And also my belief that English is just your reflection of your English level.
More that. That's more of that. Yeah.
So I just I went on to YouTube. I found a channel named IELTS Advantage.
Oh, I know that channel. Yeah.
I think he helped me a lot, with the tips and tricks and strategies, because I had certain questions that I struggle with, but for writing and speaking, it took a lot of effort.
Those are the productive skills.
That's much. So for writing, I have always been weak at writing, and I still think I'm weak at writing. That's why I took that CSE writing class. Because I'm very impressive. I'm very impressed by people who can write very solid and coherent, who can express their thought in a organized way, in a very compact and very impactful way. Because I cannot do that. But for the speaking, I didn't have a speaking partner. The thing about speaking is you have to practice through conversation,
right?
Like the one we are having. But I didn't have a partner at that time, a partner to practice with.
Yeah.
So I practiced with ChatGPT.
I see.
Yep. But yeah, I talked to him. Yeah,
with
by
voice.
Yeah. It replied to me instantly.
Okay.
Yeah. Having a conversation. It's they listen to you and they respond to you based on your and I asked ChatGPT to give me an estimated IELTS band score after every conversation that we had, but it would only give me 5.5.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's wrong.
The thing about ChatGPT is when you test your speaking with them or writing, speaking and writing especially, they will give you a very low band score. Always So yeah, at that time I felt really discouraged. Why? Am I not that good? So I thought to myself, but later, whatever. I think he's lying to me. I just whatever. Then later, I no longer practice with ChatGPT because that would be discouraging for me.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's telling you 5.5.
Yeah. So I just speak to myself. I just talk to myself in the mirror. But turn out in the real speaking test, I did a good job, and I got band 8 in speaking, which I didn't expect to get.
I'm not surprised.
So I didn't expect to get 8 in speaking, but I think one of the biggest factor that that can affect your score is your examiner. Because when I took the test, I took the test like with, how do you say? Even though I took the paper-based test, but for the speaking, I had a one-on-one chat with a foreign examiner. Not that I'm saying like foreign are better than local examiner, but yeah, we had like a Zoom speaking test session. So the examiner made me really comfortable. Like it's like having a conversation. As we dive into like every topic, or like as I dive into more questions, I felt more comfortable each question. So I was able to show off, like I was able to demonstrate my real ability in communicating in English. I might make a few mistakes, but yeah. I felt really comfortable at that time, so I was not thinking about like, the grammatical structure. I wasn't thinking about the mistake I would make. I just talk. So yeah, with the examiner, I felt comfortable, so I was able to demonstrate. I think that's why it helps me in a way to get Banning. But what I have heard of is, I have like a few friends who are very good at English too.
Yeah,
I communicate with them in English, and they're very fluent too. But when it comes to like taking IELTS, they took the test, but they only got like 6.5 or 7, or the score that they didn't expect to get. But I mean, for their level, like it's too low for their level, in my opinion. But the thing is, they met an examiner that didn't really make them feel comfortable, or they put them, it's like pressuring the candidates, like the examiner. They were not like having a conversation. They were not communicating. They were just asking and answering.
right.
So I think that's the reason they were not able to really show their ability, their skill. So I think your examiner, it plays a big part of your speaking score.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
was
totally
talking
agree.
about.
Yeah. Two things. The first thing about IELTS, I think when you said that, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody, doing the mock test, I would totally disagree. If I were like somebody, if I know somebody who is going to take IELTS test, I would refer your method because it's all about format, isn't it? It's all about format. It's all about, like you said, it's all about knowing what they are asking from you. If you know what they're asking from you, you can just give it and then get something and get the band in return. It's not about how much you know. It's about whether you know what they're asking from you or not. So I would definitely recommend, I think.
I have a few friends who would like to take the test and who ask me for advice on how to prepare for IELTS. I do recommend like learning the format first,
right,
and then taking the mock test, because the first mock test is important. It's like a diagnostic test for you to actually know your level.
Right.
I do recommend that, but like taking multiple mock tests, like in a week, like throughout the week, taking multiple mock tests, I wouldn't recommend it, because the thing about it is that why I wouldn't recommend it is that you, after each mock test, I think we should reflect on the kind of mistakes that we made. But later I learned that. And I reflect, I make this kind of mistake. I'm very weak at, this type of question. So I reflect on that, and I watch like the tips and tricks video.
Right.
And after that, I try to apply that when I take another mock test. Yeah. But the thing is, you have to be very consistent when you apply the trick and tips, like the strategies, because you need practice. Like you need practice to become, for the tips to become your second nature. I would say, like second nature. When you actually take the test, you just do it unconsciously. So yeah, you do need like practice when you actually use a tip.
Right.
So yeah, that I would recommend more than like taking mock test after mock test.
Right.
That's fine.
That I appreciate that you said it, because it makes the tip a lot more comprehensive. It's not just about mock text after mock test. There's something in between that you need to do, which is reflection and then learning about the tips and tricks.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would. It's a really good tip in a way that it doesn't require you to cost a lot or go to a course. You know, everything is almost available online these days. If you just take a bit of effort, if you just put a bit of effort in. But maybe not go to ChatGPT, who will just discourage you.
Yeah.
But I think ChatGPT, I think it would have been upgraded by now. Maybe
I think it's more reliable now.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. And what were you going to say?
I was just saying that I also have one friend that I did CELTA together with.
Yeah.
But with her, she said like her style of learning is that she needs a course. She definitely needs a course. Like she has the needs to attend a course to get a sense of like, oh, she actually studying. Or she needs a partner to encourage her to do the learning. So yeah, I mean, in her case, I don't think that that's my strategies of preparing for IELTS wouldn't work for her because for her, like, she has to feel that sense of she is actually studying for something.
Right.
So yeah. But if you're feeling lost, like, oh, I don't have the money, or if I don't have any resources, then if you feel like that, like, you always have YouTube, you always have like the online resources that you can use, like, that are available anytime, anywhere. So yeah.
I really like how this conversation has grown because you were giving me tips and then I disagreed.
And tricks.
And then you make your tips more comprehensive. And then I agree with the fact that it's a really good tip. And I had assumed that taking the IELTS, hear our conversation, maybe they'll say like, oh, I should be using online resources, and then I should be doing mock tests on my own. But then you added on to that, saying that maybe it's not for everybody because everybody's learning style was different. Yeah. I think the tip got evolved in a way, in a lot of ways. And I think I really like that evolvement of conversation. It makes it more comprehensive. Yeah. But there's another totally different topic that I would want to go into next. Relating to our tips, like our conversation, making the tips more comprehensive and more detailed and more personalized to suit the need of not everybody, but many of the people. With that, and combining with what you said about your friends not having the skills that they deserve because they unfortunately got not a very welcoming examiner. Yeah. I want to talk about that luck.
Luck.
Yeah, because it's a concept that not a lot of people talk about, I think, but it's a concept I think it's just as important as hard work as well.
Yeah.